Good evening. Welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom on the programme tonight after being arrested. Another setback for Arvind Kejriwal's number 2, Manish Sisodia. Arrested for corruption by the CBI, Sisodia was unable to get justice in the Supreme Court. Go back to the lower courts is what the Supreme Court said. Later that evening, and this is what we will be debating some time back, Sisodia resigned along with another minister, Satyendar Jain, who's also in custody but in another case. Now the resignations have been accepted by Arvind Kejriwal. Is this an admission by Kejriwal that there may be something in these allegations, or is this being done to ensure that governance in Delhi continues? Sisodia, remember, had a whopping 18 ministries under him and was the face of the changes done to schools in the national capital, something applauded around the world. Later on the show, at 1:30, the Supreme Court has dismissed a petition seeking the renaming of all cities and historical places which have reportedly been named after invaders. The petition was filed by the BJP leader Ashwani Kumar Upadhyay, who wanted a renaming commission to find out the original names of ancient historical, cultural and religious places named after barbaric foreign invaders. Now the Supreme Court's words were important. The judges asked the petitioner whether he'd like to keep India on the boil. Don't dig up the past, which will only create disharmony. We'll be looking at the Supreme Court order, lots of the statements made by the judges and the significant ramifications of that. But first, let's focus on the Delhi situation. Manish Sisodia, the right-hand man of Arvind Kejriwal, has resigned after the instant justice that he sought in the Supreme Court was not granted to him. Remember, he's being investigated on corruption charges by the CBI. There have been several reactions which have come in the last little while. Before we start our debate, let's take a look at those reactions.
इन दोनों मंत्रियों के ऊपर लगे हुए आरोप का सवाल है, ये आरोप पूरी तरीके से बेबुनियाद है, फर्जी है और कोई सत्यता इसमें नहीं है। ये बात मैं फिर से दोहराना चाहता हूं। क्या आरोप लगाया बीजेपी के लोगों ने? 10,000 करोड़ की रिश्वत खाई मनीष सिसोदिया ने। 14 घंटे सीबीआई का छापा घर पर हुआ, गांव पर हुआ, दफ्तर में हुआ, बैंक का लॉकर चेक कर लिया। कहीं तो कोई कागजात, कोई सोना, कोई संपत्ति मिलती, लेकिन एक फर्जी, एक बेबुनियाद आरोप उस शिक्षा मंत्री के ऊपर लगाया गया जिन्होंने दिल्ली के 18 लाख बच्चों की अच्छी शिक्षा के लिए दिन रात मेहनत किया।
सत्येंद्र जैन को इस्तीफा देने के लिए कब से कहा जा रहा था? 8 या 9 महीने से। दिल्ली की जनता के ऊपर बिना उनके विभाग के मंत्री के वो जेल के अंदर थे और जेल में क्या क्या करते थे सबके सामने था। और मनीष सिसोदिया के अंदर अगर थोड़ी भी नैतिकता होती, जिस दिन उनके ऊपर यह गंभीर आरोप लगा उनको उसी दिन इस्तीफा देना चाहिए था और कहते कि जब तक मैं पाक साफ होकर नहीं निकलूंगा तब तक मैं काम नहीं करूंगा। लेकिन आज भी बहस में क्या कर रहे थे कि हम 18 विभाग संभालते हैं। तो अगर हम जेल चले जाएंगे तो 18 विभाग कौन संभालेगा? तो भ्रष्टाचार का जवाब नहीं, 18 विभाग चलाने की चाहत अधिक। आज उनका इस्तीफा भारतीय जनता पार्टी की बहुत बड़ी विजय है।
Well, joining us now, Priyanka Kakkar of the Aam Aadmi Party. We are also joined by Nalini Singh, Siddharth Luthra, the senior advocate in the Supreme Court, Navneet Rajan Wasan, a former joint director at the CBI, Dr. S.C.L. Gupta, a leader of the BJP here in Delhi, and Mudit Agarwal, vice president of the Delhi Pradesh Congress Committee. Priyanka, let me come to you first. Is this an admission of guilt by Sisodia, or is this something being done to ensure that governance in Delhi continues?
Good evening to everyone, Vishnuji. Vishnuji, what are the charges that we have to answer? It is the tragedy of our times that I have to answer to the Bangaru Lakshman Ka party. You see, what has happened? There was a policy that was framed after enough consultations between the Delhi government and the LG. The LG approved it. Certain amendments were made. The LG approved it. Subsequently, the LG changed. This approval was given by Anil Baijan.
My question, we'll discuss the details, but I'm just asking you a direct political question. No. Please answer my question. We will discuss all of this. We've got half an hour. Is this an admission of guilt, Or is he...
Absolutely not.
Okay.
It cannot be. And that is why I was going through this narration. Because if you let me speak for 2 minutes, you will know there is no guilt. That is what I'm saying. The previous LG approved it, Anil Baijal, then he was replaced, a new LG comes in. The new LG introduced a new set of rules after the policy, while the policy was during the implementation, which new set of rules could not be complied. So we could not open the same number of vents that existed in the previous policy. And we wrote a cabinet note saying that it will cause loss to the government exchequer, so kindly withdraw it, and it was withdrawn. This is what happened. Now I have to sit here and answer that a policy which was not implemented, withdrawn, whether there was any corruption in it, whether there was any corruption in the farm laws, 750 farmers died.
No, but 1 second. The fact that it was withdrawn doesn't imply automatically that there was no corruption.
No, I'm saying, see, their allegation is that it was a loss to the state exchequer. Till date, the charge sheet doesn't name Manish Ji. Till date, they're hounding him and trying to find something to establish a trail.
But there are subsequent drafts of that agreement, right? Which seem to be very different from what was originally proposed. That's the key point over here. And that there are allegations of a certain party being favoured.
The allegations are that they took the commission from 2 to 12%. While we increased the license fee, there was no cut in the government.
All right, so let's see how this bears out entirely in court. Dr. SCL Gupta, my question to you is this. The Aam Aadmi Party says that, look, they want to ensure that governance in Delhi goes on and that Sisodia resigning is not any admission of guilt. How would you respond to that?
See, this is a simple one thing. देर आए दुरुस्त आए.
Sorry, what?
व्यक्ति को देर आए दुरुस्त आए, टाइम से आ गए, उनको अकल अब आ गई, अच्छा है. मनीष सिसोदिया जी को पहले एक मिनट मैडम मैं सुन रहा था, आप चुपचाप बैठिए.
Priyanka, wait. We won't shout on this debate, anybody, please.
मुझे भी बोलने दीजिए.
I'm requesting, don't give a ticket to the Bernard Marak, who is accused of running a children's brothel. They've given a ticket in Meghalaya to him. And here in Delhi,
अभी आप अपने टाइम, अभी इस पे आइए जो आज हो रहा है. नंबर 1, अभी संजय जी ने बोला कि शिक्षा मंत्री 1 लाख इतने बच्चे. अरे हम जो भी मुकदमा आज चल रहा है वो आबकारी मंत्री पे चल रहा है. अगर रिजाइन किया है तो उन्होंने शिक्षा मंत्री की तरह से नहीं किया. शिक्षा मंत्री तो एक पोर्टफोलियो था, वो आबकारी मंत्री जहां पे भ्रष्टाचार हुआ है वहां से उन्होंने रिजाइन किया है. और सत्येंद्र जैन साहब को जो आज से 10 महीने पहले 9 महीने पहले करना चाहिए वो उन्होंने आज किया है. तो इसीलिए कहते हैं देर आए दुरुस्त आए, टाइम से आ गए. अब रही बात दूसरी गलती की,
अजय मिश्र टेनी का भी
इतनी मिनिस्ट्री के बाद, जैसे अभी आप कह रहे थे कि उनके पास 18 मिनिस्ट्री की ज्यादा चिंता हो रही है, तो उनको चाहिए कि अब केजरीवाल जी को चाहिए कि जल्दी दिल्ली.
All right, okay, both of you, one sec, just bring down their sounds. This platform cannot be used for shouting and screaming. I really want to hear the views of all sides. Nalini, let me come to you first. You know, the Aam Aadmi Party, given their recent performance in elections in various states, some better than the others, was actually looking at trying to make more of a national mark. This comes at this stage where Sisodia has a huge bearing in the operations and the identity of the Aam Aadmi Party. What does this mean now for Arvind Kejriwal as he seeks to, ahead of the elections, take AAP to the next level?
Vishnu, let me answer your question like this. That I think that the resignation by Manish Sisodia today is an excellent step. It shows that, or it is indicating that if the CBI arrests you, you resign. And although this gives chilling powers, even more powers to the CBI, but it does show that this is, if it touches you, you resign. I would say that this is a precedent which is an excellent precedent set in Indian politics. We will be talking about it for the next half decade. The only thing now is that it should now apply with retrospective effect if possible. Any charge-sheeted person of holding an authority must resign even if it is retrospective. I'm telling you why, even though it sounds impractical. You have Suvendu Adhikari, who is now a BJP luminary in West Bengal, and he was actually charge-sheeted by the CBI. Charge-sheeted. I think Manish Sisodia has not yet been charge-sheeted. So I would say that taking this forward as citizens, that if the CBI arrests you, you resign. I think if the CBI arrests you, charge sheets you, etc., you resign first of all.
But I think, Nalini, the point is that
I would say, and answering your question, whether this is something which is enormous for Arvind Kejriwal. Do you know? I think that Delhi has, as you and I know, the voting pattern is that those affected by the good schools, by the mohalla clinics, etc., are even today. They are not speaking because these you and I know are powerless and maybe voiceless people, but I think their sympathies are with the Aam Aadmi Party. But the cognoscenti are saying that they have lost their high moral ground after coming along from India against corruption. So I think that Arvind Kejriwal in this case is going to have a tough time. But Vishnu, just 1 second, I would commend the Gujarat model of administration to him, which is one strong person, a whole lot of bureaucrats, go for infrastructure, and this is the way you run your state.
But they already have a very few, limited number of ministers.
No,
three of them are out. Two of them running the government are out. One of them is being investigated, right? So one of them has resigned. Two of them have been are now behind bars. So it's untenable for the millions in the city. I know the Congress wants to come in. Just 1 second. Siddharth Luthra, can we just go through a couple of points mentioned, Mr. Luthra, in the Supreme Court? Justice was sought by Manish Sisodia. He wanted almost instant justice, saying that, look, I've not been named over here. Why am I being questioned? To which the Chief Justice said, go to the High Court, our doors are open, but at a later stage, and that if he was to appeal in the Supreme Court, this will set a very bad precedent. You can't do this just because you're in Delhi. Would you like to just, share your views on these observations by the court?
So I think we need to have the facts correct. When the CBI registered its FIR in August of 22, Manish Sisodia is named in the FIR. It's not that he's not named. Fact number 2. A charge sheet has been filed somewhere, I believe, in February of 22, in November of 22, which related to 7 individuals' entities. But Manish Sisodia was not named as an accused, though further investigation was kept open. So these are the background facts that we have to consider before we determine whether what happened in court was the practice of the court. Because in my view, and I will say this, whenever an individual is remanded, the ordinary and the normal remedy is to file a petition before the High Court seeking a quashment of the remand order or bail, as the case may be. That's the normal process. Mr. Sisodia did approach the Supreme Court, which, by the way, legally is entitled to. It's not that he's not. Yeah. Once the CRPC, the Constitution, permitted. However, what happens is, as a matter of practice for many decades now, courts are very reluctant to interfere under Article 32 in these matters, saying that, when there's a judicial order passed against you, the remedy lies to the Sessions Court. I recall many years ago, we'd done this for Mr. Badal, and the court kept it pending for a week and said, go and exercise your remedy of bail before the trial court. If you don't, then we'll entertain this. We'd file a transfer and way back in the early 2000s. So that's the normal practice of the court. Having said that, there is one more thing which we need to consider, and that is, today there is an order of police custody remand. 1 day has already lapsed. They'll go to the High Court. They'll challenge it. And the legitimacy of that remand to CBI custody will be tested by the High Court at some point. As we all know, these matters take a little time because these matters have to be heard, and there is a designated judge who can only hear them. In terms of the MP and MLA courts, there is only one designated judge in the Delhi High Court who is to hear it. So that has to happen maybe tomorrow, day after, whenever they move. The third thing which you need to ask, and which I think everybody, I've seen the various people from the political parties trading compliments, which they're entitled to do. But the point is, and I'm not talking about this case, the first thing we need to understand is, should there be arrests? Everybody wants the other side arrested, but should there principally be arrests in matters where there are documentary evidence? Why should people be put to custody? And that applies across the board. Yes, If arrest happens, if police custody happens, that's for the honorable ladies and gentlemen who are in public life to determine what course of action is honorable or appropriate, but that's their domain. But the fact is, I think it's time we should all ask, and even the investigating agencies, why 8 months later, August is the FIR, today we are 8 months later, what is the need to arrest at this stage? And this is not just applicable to this individual, but this is applicable across the board.
Okay.
In this case and in other cases.
Navneet Rajan Vasan, former Joint Director at the CBI, would you like to actually answer that question or share your views? Why 8 months after the FIR was filed, is an arrest now taking place?
I will agree with the...
I mean, is the process the punishment?
No, but I will agree with Mr. Luthra. I think the investigation agencies have to be very, very careful in arresting anybody unless there is an evidence that somebody is trying either to purchase or to harass witnesses or to destroy evidence. In cases where there is documentary evidence, where the investigation agency knows that this evidence is not going to vanish, there is no need to arrest. And so the old CBI manual also states the arrest was rare in most of the corruption cases, and the investigation agency can come to a definite conclusion, and after that, if there is something which establishes that the offense which has been committed is so serious and it is going to later create hurdle in the trial, then only the arrest used to take place. Otherwise, most of the corruption cases, there was no arrest, even after filing the charge sheet.
Mudit Agarwal, you wanted to make a point earlier on, but my question to you is this. Shouldn't the Congress have been a lot more vociferous in politically making statements against the arrest, considering that you've been saying so often that the ED, the CBI, etc., are caged, are political animals, they're used for political purposes? Why don't you condemn, or why haven't you condemned the Aam Aadmi Party arrests?
So give me some time, because there are a lot of questions involved there. Firstly, look, we always, and we still maintain, ED and CBI and other institutions are being misused by Modi government. Had that not been the case, Mr. Sisodia would have been arrested more than a year back. That's number one. They wanted to put pressure on Mr. Sisodia last year so that through him they could tell Kejriwal to work in certain constituencies in Gujarat so as to damage Congress. So that's how they used this episode. Otherwise, he should have been arrested a year back. Number one. You see, why he resigned today, that was not out of any moral compulsion. That was more out of a political necessity. Had it something to do with morals, then Satyendar Jain would have resigned more than 8 years back, more than 8 months back. There are very serious questions which Mr. Kejriwal and Sisodia ji have never answered over last 1 year. Like Modi ji does not answer on Mr. Adani, same way Sisodia and Kejriwal does not answer on liquor policy. Why was commission increased from 2 to 12%? There is this thing in which Kulvinder Marwa, father of Sunny Marwa, who is accused number 13 in the FIR, is saying that 6% goes to AAP party in cash. There are very serious allegations in that sting. Now Kejriwal and Manish Sisodia ji says, कि भाई हमको sting का जवाब देते फिरेंगे. Why reverse the policy? It was so good. Why open liquor shops near schools and religious places if it was not to benefit your friends? Why 144 crores of money was written off of liquor mafia? And the reason, you know what the reason was given? Because there was a lockdown during Corona. That's why we had to give them that money back. But at the same time, during that Corona time, when there was a lockdown, all the industries were closed, but they did not write off or give any rebate on electricity bills. These questions have to be answered.
Okay, let's get an answer.
And the worst thing, I'll just take 10 more seconds. The worst thing out of all this was in March, April 2021, when people were dying of Corona, when there were no ventilators, there were no hospitals, Kejriwal ji and Manish Sisodia ji were busy making liquor policy for their friends.
All right, one second. Priyanka, would you like to reply to all of them? The key point which is being mentioned over here.
Then Vishnu,
is that there
then
are no
I see
answers.
Vishnu shown giving certificate of education policy.
One second.
Vishnu,
I think we should all give a certificate of the education policy because it's been acknowledged around the world. So let's not mix up issues. That may not be politically workable for you, but I think the education policy of Delhi is absolutely outstanding. But let's not talk about that. We are talking about something else. One sec. Mudit, one sec. Mudit, 1 second. Mudit, please. Mudit, wait. Please.
You have no clue about
Priyanka,
education policy.
no, I do, but that's not, it's not between me and you, but let's just deal with this
case. Go do
case.
some research before you give certificates on TV. You should do that as a journalist.
Thanks for the advice. I don't need it from you, but
Thanks.
let me just get it. Priyanka, would you like to reply to all of the very serious allegations?
Do, Vishnu.
Yes. Very quickly, because I can go per allegation also. For example, 144 crore waiver was. I'm going, sir.
Please do.
Mudit bhai, 2 minutes. Mudit bhai, 2 minutes. Mudit bhai, please. 144 was waived off. The Madras High Court also said that when the shops weren't open, you have to give the money back जब दुकानें नहीं खुली. Uttarakhand में ऐसा हुआ, Maharashtra में ऐसा हुआ,
No,
Haryana में
Priyanka,
ऐसा हुआ.
are you going to answer the specific questions which have been raised on this particular case?
Okay, let it be.
The allegations of a middleman, the allegations of this commission, the rate going up to 12% odd. Answer these questions.
Vishnu ji, I can. Vishnu ji, this approval
Go ahead,
was
start.
sought by this approval was sought from 2 to 12% was the hike in license fee. We did not want any part in the business of liquor vends that existed previously, and this was approved by the LG. This commission hike was approved by the LG. That is not even in question with the buying court. Vishnu ji, listen to me.
Any comment on the sting in which one of the vendors
it is
is
a false. That sting doesn't mention anything
she
like
never
that,
interrupted
Vishnu
you when you spoke. Let her please
She's
speak.
not answering.
Yeah, so let me be the judge of that. So just wait, please. Let her try. Without your interrupting. Just 1 sec. Please go ahead. Priyanka, answer the direct questions.
Please be an unbiased judge.
Vishnu ji, directly answering that the commission of that जो TV पे प्रचार चल रहा है 2 to 15%, Vishnu ji, this was done because we 20. This was done because we increased the license fees. And we did not want any part in the business of running the liquor vends.
I don't know what she
Previously, the government had a share in each bottle sold. We didn't want to do that. And this was approved. This was approved by the LG. I can similarly answer everything. But you see, today, the Congress is standing with BJP. Perhaps, I am saying this because perhaps they want to. There is no other way they can push Rahul Gandhi up again until there is Arvind Kejriwal standing. They have no option. Everyone.
How many seats you have in Lok Sabha?
Supporting us, because this is incorrect. When you were hounded, even we were talking about, sir, what should तो क्या हुआ? आपके बराबर है हम 10 साल में.
All right. We can't be doing this debate like this. Just bring down their sound. Bring down both of their sounds, please. I cannot have. I mean, this is not one person shouting over the other. It's not going to work that way. But let me go across to Mr. Vasan. Mr. Vasan, in terms of the allegations which have been raised, do you believe that these are substantive allegations? Do you believe there is something that needs to be looked at when it comes to information which Sisodia had not previously disclosed? Do you believe that there is something substantive which has recently appeared?
You see, as far as I'm concerned, whatever is in the public media or whatever is in the public domain, the allegations are definitely serious, and these allegations do need investigation. But it is difficult for anybody to say whether those allegations, serious allegations, the investigation agency has the required evidence to prove those allegations in the court of law. These are two different questions. But definitely the commission from 6% or some other percentage going up to 12% is a very, very serious charge. And I'm sure that investigation will do an objective investigation and find out the facts and the evidence which will prove this allegation. If there is no evidence, then I would say that the investigation agency has to do a much more introspection, and they have to do their job properly.
Nalini, how is this going to play out for the Aam Aadmi Party going forward?
I think there are two things here, Vishnu. One of them is just think, from not only Aam Aadmi Party's lens, but think of it what's happening to us. Sanjay Singh, Aam Aadmi Party Member Parliament, when he was released this morning after being arrested yesterday, when he said something which is equally which is really like the flash of lightning at night that tells you the true landscape of our minds now. He said, if I give me ED and CBI for 1 day, and within 2 hours I'll have, and I'm using his words, Modi, Shah and Adani arrested. Now, this is what's happening to us, that we are now getting, this is the normal, that ED and CBI are the most powerful, these are instrumentalities which politicians will use. So I would say that that is one response, and we should be very worried about that. As far as the Aam Aadmi Party is concerned, I really believe, Vishnu, that even if all the ministers are arrested, the government will still run if there is some sort of mechanism found.
Sure.
Because it is run everywhere in the country through bureaucrats. If these bureaucrats are going to report to Mr. Amit Shah and to the central government, the bidding of the Aam Aadmi Party leadership will not be done, but Delhi will run. So I think this bogey of that 2 ministers are in and only 5 are out, and the chief minister and Mr. Gehlot are being targeted now, so there'll be 2 inexperienced ministers left, etc. I don't think that matters.
Okay,
Gujarat, as you know, has been running through bureaucrats, so this can also run through bureaucrats.
Sure. Mr. Luthra, to the larger point which is mentioned by opposition parties and statistically backed as well, that if you look at the number of cases which the ED or the CBI was looking at, particularly against opposition parties, they were a fraction of what has been happening over the last 3 to 4 years. Number one. And number two, the conviction rate, despite the additional prosecution, is still abysmal. So is there not truth in the matter, and the several examples which can be raised, that the CBI, ED, etc. are tools of the government to harass political leaders? That's what this debate is ultimately about.
So I'll tell you this. This is a common issue raised by whoever is on the wrong side of these agencies. I'm not saying they're as professional as they ought to be. In fact, CBI is surviving since 2013 on a stay order by the Supreme Court, which I believe you should. Having said that, the ED used to have FERA with it, which was a very stringent law, which was used and harshly used very often. And now the PMLA has also a number of stringent provisions giving ED vast powers. And when I mean vast powers, and almost no judicial oversight, limited judicial oversight. The Supreme Court has upheld a lot of those powers in Vijay Madan Lal Chaudhary's case. And today, therefore, at least they have the imprimatur of the Supreme Court till the review is decided, where we had raised a number of objections. So that's the lay of the land. Let's understand that. Having said that, I'm not a political person, and therefore it is not my place to comment on what is happening. But there is definitely a case to be made out to say, don't arrest or prosecute till there is there has to be a legitimate investigative need. Just extorting a confession or obtaining a confession is not a legitimate reason. There's a right to silence under Article 21. Number two, do not prosecute because there is a practice to file complaint and supplementary complaints and keep matters lingering. What really needs to be asked is, in all these cases which these agencies have started an investigation, arrested individuals, have they culminated in complaints or charge sheets? And if those complaints and charge sheets they've culminated in, what is the stage of the trials? Sure. There is going to be no conviction acquittal if things keep lingering, and you can't amass thousands and lakhs of papers, and a lot of that is really irrelevant to what you want to establish.
Mr. Luthra, let me just establish some of the point that I was trying to make through some graphics which we've got. Let's bring out the graphics on the allegations of ED misuse, and then we'll get Dr. Gupta to respond to that. Let's have the numbers up over there, because this will actually give our viewers an idea of the number of cases. Raids are up, now we're talking about raids, are up 26 times since 2014. But as I mentioned, the conviction rate is abysmally low. It remains extremely small, and we'll try and bring that up. Between 2005 and 2014, the Enforcement Directorate carried out 112 raids. Between 2014 to 2022, 3,000 raids, 3,010 raids have been carried out. And we've got one or two numbers. The Finance Ministry has said that increased searches show that a government commitment to prevent money laundering, that's one of the reasons to justify all of this. But if you actually look at this conviction rate before 2014 to 2022, I'll come to you, Mr. Luthra, 2.59%. The prosecution complaints, 888, convictions, just 23 convictions. Mr. Luthra, go ahead.
So the point is, we have, since the Act came in 2005, expanded its reach enormously. The number of scheduled offences have increased so high, so the reach of the ED has become immense. Is the conviction rate poor? It's abysmal. And not only the conviction rate poor, the instances of prosecutions reaching a conclusion is poor, because these matters keep lingering. They file charge sheet upon charge sheet, complaint upon complaint. Cases don't even see the light of day for consideration of charge. There are cases which I know of, 2014-15 they were filed. Today the 10th prosecution complaint is being filed, and there is no likelihood of the trial proceeding. And meanwhile, people are either in custody or they are on bail.
So basically they're languishing, and that's
the problem. So all these agencies need to be made accountable for what they do. People, we must not forget, sir, people have a presumption of innocence in this country. We are forgetting that all the time. And that presumption of innocence goes, unfortunately, into the dustbin every day.
Dr. Gupta, would you like to respond to that? I won't repeat those numbers. It's shocking, absolutely. Look at the conviction rate. Forget everything else. Nothing happens. So therefore, the question which is asked is, why is the process not the punishment? The idea is that you lock up somebody for several years possibly, or at least several months, and you score a political point.
देखिए, एक चीज मैं बताऊं आपसे, ये लॉ इज टेकिंग इट्स ओन कोर्स. कंप्लेंट्स, नंबर ऑफ कंप्लेंट्स बढ़ी. नंबर ऑफ कंप्लेंट्स क्यों बढ़ी? एक मिनट, नंबर ऑफ कंप्लेंट्स क्यों बढ़ी? बिकॉज नंबर ऑफ इश्यूज लोगों ने उठाए. आज आबकारी पॉलिसी आई, तभी तो इस पॉलिसी की वजह से लोगों ने कंप्लेन की ना. 2% से 12% कमीशन हुआ तो कंप्लेन की ना. आज अगर मनीष सिसोदिया जी को अगर जेल भेजा गया है तो कुछ उस स्टेटमेंट के बेसिस से भेजा गया है जो गवर्नमेंट ने एक मिनट. तो ये इशू जो है, अगर आज पार्लियामेंट में 200-150 अमेंडमेंट्स हुए हैं तो कुछ न कुछ वजह थी जो उसमें कमी थी. तो आज पहले केसेस नहीं होते थे, आज ये लोग ज्यादा कर रहे हैं तो ज्यादा केसेस हो रहे हैं.
पहले कम करते थे, अब ज्यादा करते थे, मतलब और ज्यादा करप्ट हो गए, पर कन्विक्शन रेट वही है जो पहले था. इनफैक्ट उससे भी कम है.
अभी तो और अदरवाइज कोर्ट में जाएं, कोर्ट मना तो नहीं किया. सिद्धार्थ लुथरा जी भी कह रहे हैं, अगर भाई आपके पास एक ऑप्शन ओपन है ना कोर्ट जाने का, आप कोर्ट में जाइए, कोर्ट अपने आप जस्टिस करेगा. या तो जस्टिस नहीं.
प्रियंका वांट्स टू रिप्लाई.
यस
प्रियंका,
कोर्ट में जाने के लिए पहले इन्वेस्टिगेशन होगा.
इन्वेस्टिगेशन एजेंसीज आपके पास है. आबकारी क्या है ये बताएंगे. कितने 100 करोड़ रुपए का वो.
गुप्ता जी, एक सेकंड. गुप्ता जी, 1 मिनट.
मैं तो इतना ही कहना चाहूंगा.
मैं आपको गिनवा रही हूं सर. इन्वेस्टिगेशन
I'll come to you next, Mr. Luthra. प्रियंका जी फर्स्ट.
बना दिया, रात को 3 बजे तक दारू की दुकानें खोल दी, एग्रीकल्चर लैंड में दारू की दुकानें खोलने लगी.
इन्वेस्टिगेशन होगा सर. सर, गुजरात में नशाबंदी करके नकली शराब बेची. आप मेरी बात सुनिए.
This is going to against
इन्वेस्टिगेशन होगा. इन्वेस्टिगेशन में CAG रिपोर्ट ने कहा है कि शिवराज सिंह चौहान की जब गवर्नमेंट करप्ट है, मिड डे मील
आप
का
यहाँ पर
घोटाला
आइए,
किया
दिल्ली में बाहर क्यों जा रहे हैं?
All right, both of you, 1 second, you're shouting. Mudit, do you have a point? Do you have a point to make on the rate of conviction and all of that?
No, see, as I've already
Just very briefly, yeah. Priyanka, 1 second.
By Modi government, there's no doubt about that. Had that not been the case, Manish Sisodia would have been jailed a year back. There are larger issues. Look, this government run by Kejriwal is unscrupulousness, dishonest. It's based on hypocrisy. He's evoking Gandhiji now. I mean, the guy who removed photos of Gandhiji's from his offices is evoking Gandhiji. I mean, the guy who is promoting liquor like anything. No other government in India
Manish has been evoking Gandhi, hasn't he?
Like Kejriwalji has.
But we have not
Manish has been evoking Gandhi today.
Opening
I was asking you about
liquor shop
convictions.
near school in residential colonies is now talking about Gandhiji. I mean, now Manish Sisodia has become Bhagat Singh. I mean, the guy who charged with corruption, I mean, he's been called
Clear where the Congress stands on this issue. All right, 1 second. Everybody sound down except Mr. Luthra. Mr. Luthra, really, 30 seconds, sir.
There is another issue that arises whenever there are these inter-se political disputes that happen between different governments, state versus center. There is now increasing a desire to hold on to an investigation, and this is happening in almost every state. So everybody is struggling whether whenever the party in power is there, they wanted to go to the CBI or elsewhere. Whenever there are regional parties, they want to retain the investigation because everybody feels their agency is fairer, which tells a lot about how we are treating the independent investigating or so-called independent investigating agencies. Matter needs serious rethink.
All right, I'd like to thank you all very much for joining us. This is, it's a debate at so many levels. The legal aspect, which we've looked at quite extensively. But politically, this is a huge blow for the Aam Aadmi Party. What happens going forward? We'll take a short break.